Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Amazing Seller Podcast. This is episode number 707, and today I'm excited because we're going to get some insider information about e-commerce, and really, this is a State of the Merchant Report 2019, and it was put together by a good friend of mine, Andrew Youderian. You may or may not know who he is, but he runs a very, very successful e-commerce forum for 7- and 8-figure sellers, and that's E-commerce Fuel. And he does this report every single year. He has been for the past 3 or 4 years. And what's really cool about it is he's asking these questions to 7- and 8-figure sellers and getting a lot of facts. Okay, from, I believe it was over 400 businesses, but we'll actually discuss that in this interview. But it's really awesome to kind of hear, like, what are the best sales channels? What's the best traffic channels that these sellers are experiencing? How much of their business is coming from Amazon? How are ads performing and what types of ads are performing? So all of these details are packed into this report. So I'm going to give you a link to that report, but also we're going to dive into some of the highlights of this report inside of this episode. And it's always good hanging out with Andrew. Andrew's also been a huge help in really allowing us to kind of look behind the curtain of an event that he puts on as well for his community. And, you guys know that we're doing an event coming up called Brand Accelerator Live. And I've really leaned on him in so many ways just by asking questions, because it's my first time doing a live event. And I wanted to make sure that I'm, going to set this thing up for success, or at least the best chance for people to succeed and really win from going to an event. And he's just been really, really awesome with that. So again, I throw a little shameless plug out there. If you guys have not checked out Brand Accelerator Live or grab your tickets yet, depending on when you're listening to this, you can head over to brandacceleratorlive.com and grab a ticket, or at least get the information about the event. And then if there isn't tickets available at this current time, you can get on a wait list. But if you go there and there's tickets available, grab one. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be epic. All right, so guys, I'm going to just go ahead and lead into the conversation that I had with Andrew. It was really awesome to just really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on behind the scenes with these over 350 sellers. So really excited for you guys to hear this and listen and just understand too. What we're talking about here is, like, what's the future? What's the future of your business? What's the future of other e-commerce businesses? And what are they doing to drive revenue, drive sales, drive traffic, and all of that stuff? So just really take notes, and then also go over to the link that we give you so you can check out this report that Andrew put together. It's really, really extensive, and it's really graphical, so you can kind of see a lot of these graphs and charts and all that fun stuff. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking so you can enjoy this interview that I did with my good friend, Mr. Andrew Youderian. Well, hey, Andrew, what's up, man? Welcome back to the podcast. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Scott. Good to be back here. And things are great. And before we started recording, we were talking about your event, which is coming up, which sounds pretty awesome. You got a good lineup of speakers for that.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. Like, yeah, it's you and I were talking a little bit about your first ever event, and the stress that comes along with it in a good way, and and the reason why you're doing it all is to really help people and really build that community side of things. And it's exciting and also scary, and all of that wrapped up into one. But I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it looks super cool. And the focus is all about kind of building a lasting brand as opposed to just like one-off products on Amazon.
Yeah, Brand Accelerator Live. It's, basically that's exactly what we wanted to do here. And it's funny, I was at Sellers Summit, which, Steve Chu, his event, we're all good friends. And I had a guy come up to me and he said, hey, he goes, this is a great event. I love it. I want to attend other events. I want to attend other Amazon events too. And I'm like, well, how many other Amazon events have you went to? And he's like, well, I went to this one. I went to that one. And I'm like, okay. I go, why don't you switch it up a little bit? Why don't you go to more like a digital marketing event. And this way here, you can take those principles and apply it to an e-commerce business. And you're probably going to stand out amongst everyone else because not everyone else is doing that. People on Amazon, that's all they're doing is focusing on that one channel. And he's like, that's a great idea. Which one would I go to? And I'm like, well, and I gave him a couple. And actually one of them was like traffic and conversion, which is a big one. And then there is, the other one was, I forget the name of it. It's by ConvertKit, something craft.
Oh, it's craft and commerce.
Yeah. And I haven't been to that one, but it's a really good one for really building your audience, building your list, communicating, follow up, all that good stuff, blog content. And he was like, oh, thanks so much. And then I got thinking, I'm like, if I was ever to do an event, it would be focusing more around those, those core things. And that's kind of what we did. So yeah, that's Brand Accelerator Live. It's about taking your business and creating a brand out of it in your market and really being able to accelerate that growth and externally and all of that stuff. So yeah, man, that's what we're doing. We got some really great speakers, and I invited you, but you were already booked. So maybe next time.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I wish I was able to make it. So it's going to be a good time, and it's fun geeking out. I mean, from the event perspective, just logistics. What having be your first event diving in? What's the thing that has either surprised you the most about the process, or you've been like, man, this part was way more work or way harder than I thought, or maybe way easier than you thought it'd be? Like, what's one of the most surprising part of the planning process behind the scenes? Because there's a ton that goes into these.
Well, I think that's it, right? There's a ton of that goes into it, right? Yeah, no, we, when we dreamt up this idea, I had an idea of what I wanted it to be like, but I think really I didn't realize how much on the hook you are once you sign your name on the dotted line. Like, people think that, you just show up to an event, the hotel lets you use it and you pay per use kind of thing. No, you commit up front in ink what the venue is going to charge you, how many rooms you're going to fill. So there's a lot of that goes into it. And you and I know, and we both talked about this and I've talked about it publicly, it's not a huge moneymaker. If you break even on your first event, you're doing well, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that was a little bit of I don't know if it was a surprise. I guess it was just a wake up that I was like, holy crap, that's right. Like, all of this stuff, this is on the line. This isn't like doing a webinar and you only get like 100 people to show up versus 1,000. Like, you've got like commitments here and videographers and all this, coordinating everything and planning and making sure that everything flows. Like, we had a 2-day meeting in Fort Worth, Texas, just going through the choreography of it. Like, how does all the timing go? How many minutes in between? What kind of music is going to be played? What kind of atmosphere do we want to create? Like, all of that stuff. So I guess I didn't really see that side of it. That was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, it's the ultimate collection of like a million details you have to wrangle. It's a hairy beast. So well done on diving in and putting as strong of an event together for your first time as you have.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you for helping me along the way too, and allowing me to kind of peek behind the curtain a little bit, and you kind of giving me the the things to look out for and just things to expect. And the same thing with Steve Chu. He's been great as well. So, all right, let's dive in. This is more about what I want to share that you created, which is amazing. And I want you to give a link to this where people can actually go through it themselves. But you create a report every single year, and you have been now for how long? How long has it been since you've been creating this report?
This is the third year I've done it.
And that report really dives deep into the overall market, or I guess, the people out there that are building online businesses, primarily e-commerce, and all of these different statistics. And I believe the way that you get the information is you do surveys within your community, and then you ask these certain questions, and then you kind of compile it and put them into these really nice graphs. And so I want to dig into that. But where did you get the idea to do this, and why do all of this work? Because it's a lot of work to do what you're doing here too.
It is. I got the idea because I didn't see a real comprehensive report on kind of the state of e-commerce, especially for like sub $10 million stores and brands. And I was curious. I was wondering, what was going on at a high level if you kind of look at the aggregate of everyone. And so that's why I decided to do it. And then also, because it's a great, hopefully it's a great marketing piece. Hopefully it's useful to people, but hopefully it's also a great marketing piece in terms of getting, visibility for e-commerce fuel, and in terms of helping people be able to benchmark their own companies against, what's going on. It's, so many times, I don't know if you've had that, like if you have a rough month and you're like, man, like, is it just me, or is my business, something systemically wrong in my business, or is it just the economy going down? And having some numbers across, revenue growth, ad costs, all these different things that store owners can look at and say, wow, okay, yeah, it's not just me. Cost, like Facebook's getting way more expensive, or wow, it's not just me, like, growth is slowing or accelerating, whatever it is, I think can be really helpful.
No, it is. It's very, very detailed, well done. And I mean, I can't even imagine just the graphics that were created for this. I mean, it's pretty impressive. But it's also pretty eye-opening in certain areas. There's a few of them that I do want to dive into, but let's kind of walk through it. So where is like the biggest thing for you think people to kind of draw into that you thought was like pretty interesting when you started putting this together?
Yeah, in terms of like the biggest trend that I saw. Like Yeah, I would say, so I'll preface this just to give you a quick little sense of who this is pulling from. The average store owner is doing about just shy of $3 million in revenue. It's about 400 store owners, mostly US based, like 3/4 US based, but with a spattering of international folks as well. So that being said, probably the biggest trend, and there's probably two or three if we want to dive into them, but the biggest trend I saw is something that I would call kind of not peak Amazon, but plateauing Amazon. And so if you look at like you said, this is our third year that we've done it. And so we can start to see some trends. And if you look at a lot of different metrics, it seems like the number of people that are flocking to Amazon is really slowing down, almost even stopping. It's not shrinking. People aren't leaving Amazon yet, but that growth is almost flattened. So a couple stats to that point. You look at the number of merchants selling on Amazon. Just, do I sell on Amazon or don't I? 2 years ago, it was 49%. Last year, it was 55%. So a reasonable jump up. This year, it barely budged to 55.8. Same thing, total group sales from Amazon was, a couple of years ago, 20% of all the revenue that these store owners reported came from Amazon. So last year, that jumped up enormously, up to 27%. This year, it barely budged to 28%. And even growth, if you look at the growth of stores that sell on Amazon versus that don't sell on Amazon. This was the first year that stores that don't sell on Amazon actually grew faster, albeit a tiny bit, but grew faster than those that sell on Amazon. So all these things, one of those in a vacuum would kind of make you think, but you look at them together and also from the rhetoric and just anecdotally from stories I hear from people in our community, that people are just getting much more careful about how they approach their business in Amazon and all those things coming together. That's the biggest trend that I saw on the Amazon front this year.
Yeah, no, that's it. It is interesting, and I'm looking at the portion there that says revenue keeps growing strong, and revenue 35.9% average growth. And I'm just looking at the different models as well. Like you have them all broken down, like drop shipping, reselling, hybrid, private label, manufacturing. And it's interesting because I'm looking at private labeling, and it looks like that has decreased. So, because we're showing on the left-hand side revenue growth by model and then income growth by model. So what's that breakdown mean, I guess? Represent that for me.
Yeah, so that's just talking about the different business models, what kind of product you sell, you reselling, you drop shipping, you manufacturing. When you look at how quickly are those different business models growing their top line revenue versus their income growth. And so it just gives a sense of,
I got you.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. And I thought that was just interesting. And it's really cool, guys. If you guys have not looked at this, I'm going to link it up in the show notes, but then Andrew can give you a direct link. Is there a direct, easy link for people to get to that like right now? Is it?
There is. Yeah. ecommercefuel.com/2019-report. And that will take you to it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I would definitely go check that out. I think it's really, really cool. It's just fascinating going through all of these different numbers. The other one I thought was interesting was the number one source of traffic.
Yeah, this was interesting too. I mean, you think, so one of the question I asked store owners was, when you look at your traffic, where do you get the most traffic from? So this doesn't mean necessarily you get 50% plus of your traffic from it, but when you look at your largest traffic source, what is that? And the answer, almost half of people said that their number one traffic source is still organic, which I thought was cool because, it's so many times, especially today in 2019, people are spending a lot more on paid acquisition. SEO has gotten a lot harder, more competitive, and it definitely has gotten more competitive. But it's nice to see that people are still able to get the majority of, or at least their most popular traffic source still comes from free organic traffic, which, is increasingingly, it seems at least like it's getting harder and harder to come by these days.
Yeah. And so what would you say, like those store owners, are they publishing content to get that free traffic? What is their vehicle to allow them to get that free traffic? Yeah,
good question. I didn't break that out. I should have, maybe that's something I can ask a little more detail on next year. I would guess, if I had to speculate, probably 80% of that is coming, 80% plus is coming from Google, from just, organic search results. And then the rest of it is probably coming from places like, Instagram, organic traffic that way, social media, and a few other platforms.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, because that would be interesting. Because, a lot of people are building out content, sites that can bring in the traffic and then from there lead over to your store. There's one that comes to mind. I don't know if you've probably heard of these guys. I think it's Mystery Tackle Box for the bass fishing kind of market, or just fishing market in general. They have like a subscription model for fishing gear. So every month you get a new box with new lures, and it's a pretty cool model. But they are really, really pushing content, free content, tips and tricks, and they're also using third party. So they're using a lot of their customers to share their number one tips and how they're catching the bass. And then they lead people over, and then, well, while you're there, you might sign up for their subscription service.
Very cool. I'm looking at these guys right now. This is a brilliant idea. I'd never even heard of it, but this is cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. They're crushing it. And again, they have a business that's subscription based, so they can pay to acquire that customer a lot more than if you're just selling like a one-off or a few different products. They can spend more to acquire that customer and then keep those customers. But yeah, they have a great business model. I always tell people, if you want to see a good business model, go check them out, because they're doing a really good job to promote themselves through free content. And even Facebook ads. They can run Facebook ads and give away a month free to get your first, your first box of tackle, and then hopefully they can win you over with some more, different products or even just content.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, another kind of tying into this, thinking about like building businesses today, and in light of some of these trends. A company like this, where you have subscription, you have people coming back over and over and over again, you can afford to spend more on them because they're going to keep coming back to you. Like, that's increasingly important, I think, for businesses you build, because ad costs, another thing that I looked at in this report was, like, it's no surprise to anyone that ad costs are going up across the board. And like for the second year, they went up by about 15%. Last year was 15 up. This year was 15 up. But you look at the increase in ad costs, like which platforms are most expensive, and Facebook increased the most this year, almost 20%. It gave the lowest return on ad spend at 3.4x. Google actually gave the highest return on ad spend at over 5, and increased the slowest costs on a cost basis at 10%. So it's interesting to see who's like, where the media buying costs are getting the most expensive, and the traffic costs. But I don't think this is going to stop. It's going to keep going as long as you got, so many, 3 or 4 companies controlling so much of the traffic. And you can get a model like these guys over at Mystery Tackle have, where it's not just one and done. It's going to help you stick around way longer in this kind of more increasingly expensive traffic world we live in.
Yeah, no. And I love that report that you have there, where you have the breakdown of the most popular marketing channels, and email marketing is number 1 here.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I broke it down. There's kind of 2 things I wanted to look at in this. I wanted to look at what was most popular. So popularity is just what people adoption, right? Like what people are using. It's not necessarily effective. So I want to see what's most popular. And then I wanted to dive a little deeper and say, what's most effective, like relative. And so kind of the basis of that is, of the number of people that actually are using a given strategy, how many report it's actually the most effective. So maybe only 5 people in the whole survey are potentially using Pinterest, but if all 5 of them say this is hands down my most effective platform, that's something we need to pay attention to. And so if you look at the most popular ones, email marketing is number 1, Facebook ads are number 2, AdWords number 3, SEO is 4th, and Instagram is 5th. Those are most popular, most widely used. But if you look at the most effective marketing channels, the number 1 was Amazon ads, which was not crazy surprising, but interesting to see, because they weren't even top 5 in most popular, but they were hands down the most effective. Email marketing was second most effective from an ROI basis. SEO was third, AdWords was fourth, and like a distant number five, not even close, a way distant number five was Facebook ads. So I don't know about you. I know a lot of people who try to go out, spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, and like anything, you got to know what you're doing and spend the time to research it. But I think Facebook ads, there's a lot of people out there who are spending a lot of money that aren't getting the returns they want, and they feel like they're alone. You're not alone. Like there's a lot of people pouring a lot of money into Facebook, and they're not necessarily seeing the ROI that they hope for.
Yeah, there's two pieces there. Like, so, okay, Amazon ads shows that it's like a winner, but also you got to think about that, right? Like Amazon ads are running on their platform that people they have buyer intent, right? So it's like email marketing, they're not. So even at email marketing coming in, they don't necessarily have a buyer's intent. They might, but Amazon, we know they're there to buy. Like if I'm going there right now, I'm going to buy a new part for my leaf blower, right? I'm going there to buy that. If I see an ad that pops up, I might click on it, and then that's going to convert into an ad. So that doesn't really surprise me. Now, the thing that does, it doesn't surprise me. Facebook ads, like you said, if you look at it like from, you've put up an ad, you asked them to purchase something, and then did they purchase something? But I like what Mike Jackness talked about, and that is top of funnel content. And then you build them in from that Facebook ad. So Facebook ad brings them in top funnel, and then you work them through the email marketing. And then on the other end is where you would convert them into a sale. But that's not really, I mean, this here is like direct sale, right? Facebook ad from like offer to a sale. Is that correct?
So say that again, Scott. I didn't follow your question there.
So like, okay, you have the top 5 most effective marketing channels.
Yep.
Facebook ads is really that, I guess that part of your report is where you ask people, are you running Facebook ads right now to directly make a sale? And they're saying, yeah, 14.8% of people said, yes, that's what I'm doing. But really what's not being considered, which I would love to know that, is how many people are doing what Mike has talked about, which is using Facebook ads to get people top of funnel, meaning coming through your ad channel, okay, or your marketing channel, email marketing even. Like how much of that came in from a lead to a sale? And it's a little tricky, but you see what I'm saying? Like that's a direct sale. What are we doing if we know what we're doing on the other end where we can bring people in top of funnel and then lead them through to potentially buy over and over and over again?
Yeah. And that wasn't something I got as nuanced to ask. It wasn't necessarily asking like, are you using Facebook for kind of top of funnel to build an audience or are you trying to, drive direct sales from Facebook? Because driving direct sales from a Facebook ad with, you got to interrupt somebody, get their interest and then convince them to buy. Like it's a much different process. And I think that's why Amazon ads are so much more effective is because A, it's natively integrated into their platform, and B, it's such a higher purchasing intent. But that's a good question. I'm not sure how many people are doing that, but I think the takeaway for this one for people is if you're selling on Amazon a lot and you're spending a lot of time on Facebook ads, but you haven't dialed in your Amazon ads, probably you're going to see a better return on your time, especially in the next month or two, if you get Amazon ads dialed in first and then move on to Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. 100%. Because I mean, right there we have buyers, and if you're not capitalizing on that, you should be. Like that's like low hanging fruit, like you said. The other thing here that's interesting, and a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it's the collection of sales tax and FBA Nexus and all of that stuff. So let's talk about that real quick.
Oh man, sales tax is such
it's a beast.
It's a nightmare right now in terms of what's going on. You've got you've got this idea of economic sales tax that was created from a recent Supreme Court ruling. You've got FBA kind of nexus you got to deal with if you're an e-commerce seller. All these different things. And one of the things I asked in the survey was, are you submitting sales tax to all the states where you have quote unquote FBA nexus inventory? So are you tracking where your FBA inventory is stored and then submitting sales tax accordingly, assuming that gives you nexus? And less than a quarter of people were actually doing that. So the vast majority of people were either not collecting or declined to respond, which pretty much means I'm not collecting.
Right.
So that is, I mean, I think that's pretty telling. And I think the next couple of years especially are going to be pretty interesting to see how aggressively states go after that. If we're able to solve what's right now kind of a quagmire of a disaster of regulation. But most people are not compliant according to the kind of the overly burdensome, in my opinion, regulations we have now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's one of those touchy topics, and I don't think anybody wants to give advice on that, because I mean, one person saying one thing, one person saying the other. I always tell people, do your homework, do your research, speak to your legal counsel, and you come up with the best solution for you. But it's pretty crazy. And I've had a few guests on that are experts in this, and they've got their own ideas, but again, who do you trust? Who do you follow? You got to do what's right for your business. The next one is, did tariffs impact your business? That was a big one this year. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it was huge. And I mean, there was a lot of talk about it. Sometimes you wonder, tariffs came down. You wonder how much is just in the headlines versus how much is actually affecting people's bottom lines. And I was surprised, over a third of people, 36%, said that tariffs materially impacted their business in a negative way this year. 2% said it helped, and then about 60% said there wasn't any effect. But they had a pretty meaningful impact on people's business, and we saw this in our private community for sellers too. That those tariffs went into place, and those importing stuff got a lot more expensive, and it made a real difference in a lot of people's businesses this year, which was a bummer.
Yeah, no, and it was everyone was freaking out about it. I was always like, well, yeah, it could happen. And if it happens, then, pretty much everyone across the board, which is majority of people that are sourcing from China, are going to be affected. It's everyone's going to pay for it, right? Us as a consumer is going to pay for it. And we all seen it. I've seen it, not even just from people that are selling on Amazon, just in your local store, if you're buying something that's been imported. So, but yeah, it's still something that you want to think about, because instantly you could see a huge, a huge drop in what you could potentially be making, because now you're paying more for that product. But it's one of those things,
Yeah, and it's you think about the reality of it, and it's probably who pays for it. It's probably a combination of sellers' margins get hit. That's part of it. I would guess prices go up a little bit. I imagine most people across the whole chain pay for it in different percentages. But it affects. It's a bummer for people manufacturing overseas and importing. It's not good at all.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about here. I'm kind of scrolling down to the bottom here a little bit, where you have struggles in future plans. And I think that's interesting, because a lot of people would think, oh, well, these store owners, they're doing almost, some of them over 3 million a year, but they got it all figured out. So let's talk about that. I've been in similar shoes where you're like, oh, if I get to this, everything will be great. And then you get there and you're like, oh, now there's these problems I didn't have before because I wasn't here yet. So can we talk about them, like the common struggles and things like that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So we looked at 3 things: common struggles, macro changes, and future plans people had. And starting with struggles, time management was hands down the biggest one. And even whenever I chat with merchants, just anecdotally, I feel like the biggest thing that they struggle with is I have so much I feel like I have to do, trying to figure out how to prioritize it, how to have enough time to do it, how to delegate it. So time management has always been, I think, first and foremost, one of the biggest ones with entrepreneurs of any type, but e-commerce store owners included. Sales tax was the second one in terms of common struggles this year. It was just, like we alluded to earlier, it's just a mess. Supply chain was number 3. Manufacturing stuff is hard. And then the fourth one, which kind of ties into the biggest macro change scene, was Amazon competition, or just more competition across the board. And I think, you look on Amazon, and I saw a stat. Oh, what was it? You probably know this better than I do, Scott. The number of sellers on Amazon that are overseas, particularly in China.
It was over 40%, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking 35, 40%, which is, 2-3 years ago, this was not an issue. Or if it was an issue, it was a pretty minor one. In the last couple of years, it's just blown up from what I can see and from the data. So that was a big one. And on the macro change front, just more competition in general, especially on Amazon. Again, sales tax. And then you look at future plans. The biggest one that stood out was, and you probably have some good insight into this too, I'd imagine, was people just planning on releasing new products, more products. I just saw this over and over again in people's replies in terms of just expanding their product catalog. And so, that's kind of what I was seeing across those 3 fronts.
Yeah. And to kind of talk about the new products thing, I believe, yes, like all companies, if you release new products, you have a better chance of increasing revenue and profits and all of that stuff. But it also complicates the business too if you continually add and if you don't trim, because there's some products that people are probably still hanging on to that might not be worth sourcing. You might be sitting on, $500,000 in inventory, and it's going to take you 2 years to go through it or something. So it's a tricky situation, and because people don't want to trim a product because they're like, well, it still brings in some. But if you know your numbers and you're like, it's only bringing in like 3% we're making on that, is it worth it even to carry it for the money that we could invest in a new product? So I do believe new products is a great way to expand, but also can complicate things. So I think you just have to be careful with doing that. And I think another thing that people are always kind of playing around with the idea of, well, if I release new products, I'll just keep releasing new products, then the competition can't can't keep up. But then in the same breath, they're going to catch up to the last one you did, and then, you're going to release another one, then they're going to catch up to that one. So you're constantly in this hamster wheel of just having to create new products to stay ahead. I don't personally like that. I'd rather come out with like a really solid product or products, and then from there, figure out how to get in front of more people, not just on that one channel.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Totally makes sense. Agreed.
Yeah. And so, I think that's the biggest thing that I would say to anyone listening or anyone that's in that mindset is that, yes, new products will add revenue. They will allow you to, stay in front of the competition for a little while, but it's just going to be a matter of time, that they can come on, unless you're going to go through the whole patent and getting all that stuff done, which takes, sometimes years. And then when you do, you have to enforce it. Right? Like you can have a patent, but you still got to have the lawyers that are going to be there to enforce it. And then you got to pay for that. So a lot of times it's just easier to go do new products and stay ahead a little bit. And then hopefully you don't get stuck with a whole bunch of inventory.
Yeah. How have you seen on the Amazon front, have you seen the lifespan of a product decrease, in terms of the longevity, how long it can kind of be on Amazon, do well without an insane amount of competition? Have you seen kind of that from when you introduce it to when you have to start thinking about, not sunsetting it, but when it's, the fruits really, really dry up, or at least get much, you don't see quite as much profit from it. Have you seen that kind of lifespan for a product decrease over on Amazon over the last, 18 months?
Absolutely. Like, yes. And it's, that's what's getting me even more, focused on helping other people, and even things that I'm working on personally, is to where we can build out these external channels that we're not going to be relying on just, that competition that's coming in on Amazon. I use this one girl as an example. She's actually going to be speaking at Brand Accelerator Live. Her name is Alex Jimenez, and she basically started a blog about 6 years ago on travel. She's called Travel Fashion Girl, and she built that thing up to where she's getting 1 million unique visitors per month now. Okay, over the course of 6 years, she's built it. She's put a lot of time and effort into it. It's a 7-figure blog all on its own. But she just released 3 products that are in a very, very competitive space in travel. And she launched those because she seen that her affiliate report was showing that she was selling these 3 products. They were her top 3 products. So she said, I'm just going to create my own. And that's what she did. So now she's got all this traffic that goes over there. She doesn't care about the competition. So I'd rather go that angle. And again, that's a little bit extreme, right? I'm not saying you're going to go build a blog that's going to get 1 million uniques, but you could build one that gets a couple 100,000, 300,000 uniques. Mm-hmm. And that's all traffic that you can control and that you can, bring into the business versus always constantly trying to stay ahead of your competition on Amazon. So that's like my mission really moving forward, is to figure that piece out and help people bridge that. And I know you've had in your report here too, like a hybrid model. I look at that as like a hybrid model. You can then tap into the digital side of things, meaning you can have affiliate stuff coming through, because there's a lot of brands out there that aren't going to ever sell the bass fishing boat, the canoe, or the kayak, but they're going to sell all the gear. So why wouldn't you make recommendations to sell that and use your affiliate link to sell that and possibly bring in extra revenue that you're not necessarily competing with other people on, because you have the traffic?
Yeah. Why that woman you just referenced, why does she, it sounds like she's got her own products, her own traffic source. Yeah. Why send it to Amazon and pay their fees versus just send it to her own site and fulfill it that way? Is it just the fulfillment side? Like she doesn't have to want to worry about, she wants to leverage FBA or okay.
Yeah, it's 100%. She doesn't want to deal with it. Number one. Number two, she wants to leverage that platform because she can drive more traffic than anybody. right? So it's going to be hard to knock her off.
Oh, I see. Right? In terms of the ranking algorithm and stuff like that.
Yeah, because if you search for travel packing cubes, you'll find her video that's on YouTube that comes up in Google search. You'll see her like first or second result. She's all over the place. And then she has people linking to her. This is crazy. She has never did basically any type of like giveaway for her product to rank, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to get on a deal site. We're going to offer 50% off or 90% off. We're going to spike the algorithm and then hopefully we can keep that. She's never done that. What she did do is she did a Facebook Live telling people she was going to launch these and she wanted to do basically a pre-sale, and she sold $17,000 of this product. So when it went live, she turned it on Amazon and it spiked the algorithm. So now she's ranking. But then also all these links that she's got throughout her site that drive people over to what used to be an affiliate link is now all driving to her products. So she's never run pay-per-click, which is crazy to me. I'm like, oh, we should probably turn that on because you're probably missing more sales. But then she's got to buy more inventory. So she's like, but then I got to figure out that piece. So she's like, one thing at a time. So she's not in a hurry, but she's crushing it because she has the ability to do that. She actually gave me one other stat. She sold $200,000 of a product. I'm not going to say what product it is just because I haven't talked to her about it, but she sold $200,000 in product, okay, as an affiliate. Okay, making like 6%, whatever the rate was for that category. And she started thinking, should I sell this product? But then she thought not to because she thought the manufacturing was going to be a huge struggle. So she said, I might just partner with someone and let them do the logistical side of things and I'll just do this. So to answer your question, she uses Amazon, so this way here, she doesn't have to deal with all the headaches of fulfillment, and she's also driving people to a trusted source, right? When they see the Amazon thing, they're like, oh yeah, Amazon, cool. If I got to return it, I can. So there's that little bit of thing, but she could always position it back over to her blog if she ever wanted to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes total sense.
Yeah, so she's crushing it, but that's what I'm excited about in moving forward. And I'm sure that anyone out there that is, especially your audience, they have Google traffic, so they understand the SEO game, the Google, search and content play and all that stuff. And I think if people really double down on that right now, that's what's going to separate you from the competition, because people are, they're using a tool made by our friend, Greg Mercer from Jungle Scout, and they're looking at the numbers, which is a great tool for doing your research, but to look at those numbers and go, oh, that's selling 100 units per day, I should go sell that. Well, what you don't realize is that girl that's selling those packing cubes is driving all of her traffic to make those 100 sales. Those aren't necessarily a Amazon search necessarily. So you might be mistaken when you go ahead and launch that.
Yeah. The other thing too is there's someone I was chatting with, it's probably a year or two ago. And they said when they were doing stuff, when they were looking at new products, if they had a product that was too high in some of the, stuff like Jungle Scout, that just looked like a home run, they were really leery of getting into it, because you're not the only person looking at that, right? Like there's lots of other people who are thinking like, whoa, this looks great. And so it may not be immediate, but you've probably got a stampede of people coming probably 6-7 months down the road that you're going to have to compete with.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that number, when you're going after products that are selling 100 units per day, guess how many units you got to sell a day to rank? 100 units a day, right? Yep. So it's going to be even harder to get that, wheel spinning there. So you just got to be careful. But hey, Andrew, this has been awesome, man. I love having you on. I love hanging out. I know we hung out for a 5-minute pitch and we got to chill and just hang out. But really, it's just a pleasure. And I know that you got your hands in this a lot within your community, and you really get to see a variety of different businesses and just different e-commerce businesses. So it's always a pleasure to have you on. Is there any last little bits of information or advice you'd give anyone after kind of reading this and kind of going through all of this data?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is kind of tying it back to what we talked about at the beginning. Just, Amazon's a super powerful platform. It's shaping e-commerce. It's not going away anytime soon, but increasingly people are just becoming a little more aware of some of the downsides of selling on it, from either the concentrated risk in your business, the fact that there's some sales tax implications, the higher competition that you're going to have to work with, or even stuff like people knocking off your products. Like it's powerful, but it's there's real reasons to think about not putting all your eggs there. So, and the data is starting to really show that out too, in terms of people not flocking to it like they used to. So I just say, you look at the data from Amazon, you look at the ad costs going up. One stat we didn't get into, but it's interesting and telling, is that drop shipping, the number of drop shipping companies that were that reported this year. Last year, I think drop shippers made up about 16% of all the respondents. This year, they made up 8%. They got cut in half in 1 year. So you think about all these forces, and I think just it's if you follow this stuff, this, but building a brand and having something that you control the platform on is really important, and the numbers are showing that out. So that would be my kind of last parting thought on the data front. So
awesome. And okay, so once again, how can people get a hold of this report again?
They can do that at ecommercefuel.com/2019-report. So you can go there, you can download it for free. I also make all the raw data available. So if you want to get in and really dig in and or do your own crunching or double check my work, you can do that as well. And if you're a 7-figure store owner, would love to have you in our community. We run a community for 7-figure plus store owners, and you can learn more about that as well. Ecommercefuel.com, as well as check in just on the blog, the report, or the podcast that I do. So
that's right too. They got a podcast, so definitely go over to iTunes, check that out, or any of the major podcasting platforms. Great podcast, and you're weekly, right?
Yep, weekly, and then sometimes 2 times a week when I do a little news update every other week. So.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it. And we're going to definitely get together at some point here and just hang out and talk business, but we'll talk life too. We got a lot to talk about. I know you've been bouncing around between Arizona and where else? Are you in Denver? Is it Denver?
Bozeman, Montana.
Oh, Montana. That's right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So you're bouncing around too with the family, which is always fun to hear stories on how that's all working out. But it sounds like you're really enjoying yourself. So kudos to you, man.
Yeah, thanks. Life's good. I have very few things to complain about, and get to do fun work with smart people, and chat with people like you, and be able to work in this amazing world we live in, where you can work from anywhere. It's a pretty cool time to be alive.
It really is. So, all right, man. Have a good one. I appreciate it. And guys, go check it out. Go check out the report. I'll link everything up in the show notes as well. But thanks again, Andrew. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Well, there you have it. I wasn't kidding, right? A lot of great information. And let me just tell you something. It's a lot of work to put that thing together. He was telling me it takes weeks to put that thing together and then compile all of the information. It's a lot of work, but he does it for his community. He does it for people like us. And of course, he's getting attention over to his forum and for people to apply. If you're at a level of a 7 or an 8-figure seller and you want to be part of those forums, you can apply over there at ecommercefuel.com. So definitely check out Andrew. Great guy. I've had the pleasure of, breaking bread with him, having a beer and just, and hanging out and just, being a regular person, not just the business side of things. And he's just a really, really great guy. So really happy that I was able to meet him over the years, but also now bring him to the Amazing Seller, listenership. And hopefully you guys are getting value from that report, or you do get value from that report. I really think that you will. It's an eye-opening report, really, to kind of look and see like actual numbers and facts from real businesses. So anyway, if you want the show notes to this episode and you want to get all the links that we talked about, head over to theamazingseller.com/707. Definitely head over to ecommercefuel.com. Check out Andrew and what he has to offer over there. And then the last little reminder is Brand Accelerator Live. If you've not grabbed your ticket yet, head over to brandacceleratorlive.com and check out all the details. Grab your ticket if they're still available. If they're not available, get on the wait list just in case we have any openings or last minute cancellations. All right, guys. So that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you, and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day, and I'll see you right back here on the next episode.